Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody here. And welcome to Monika Cajko Eibicht. Vivian, you want to start with just the introduction, not of Monika, but of this sessions that we normally have once a month?
Absolutely. We are totally excited. We are always excited to have one of our visiting colleagues come and present information to us today, but I'm going to reserve that conversation for Rola. She's going to take care of that part. For now, we just want to welcome everybody to our monthly seminar. We're going to forego our intention and attention so that we can allow plenty of time for the presentation. Once the presentation has concluded, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. You can also feel free during the course of the presentation to put your questions in the chat. I will be monitoring that for you. And we'll, once the presentation is over, the question and answer has concluded, we'll have a soft close. Any questions, anybody? Are we good? Okay. We will not delay. We want to make sure Monika has plenty of time to share her presentation with us. So at this time, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, who is actually my co-host, to Dr. Rula, who is down in South Africa, over in South Africa, hanging out, keeping the world in place regarding all things Q. So, Dr. Rula, take the con.
Thank you very much, Vivian. And it's fantastic to be in a position where we can learn from Miku. And both Vivian and I are co-hosting every now and then. So please bear with us if here and there we don't dot our I's or cross our I's, whatever the correct expression is. But I am so incredibly happy and inspired to be able to present Monika Cajko Eibicht today. She's a PhD candidate of the social work program at Charles University in Prague, and with nursing and social work experience. Her doctoral research focuses on promoting reflection in health and social work education. She teaches communication skills to social work students and works as an ombudsman office coordinator at the Charles University. I also asked Monika how she came about to learn about Q. And she explained that she was first originally planning to do research via MST, no, actually face-to-face, and then COVID happened, like it happened with all of us. So then she was thinking of MST or Zoom, and during that time, her supervisor found an article where the author used Q methodology. And what I so love is Monika wrote this sentence. She said, as she learned more about Q, it became evident for her that the methodology of Q was precisely what she had been seeking, albeit unknowingly. So such a beautiful way to actually describe what Q has meant to so many of us. So Monika, we really welcome you and are looking forward to this. I pass it over to you. And Vivian will share the screen, and Vivian will also then move the screen every now and then when Monika asks her.
Okay, so everybody bear with me sharing the screen. So, all right, let me see. Okay, let's try this again. And share. And I'm going to go in presentation mode. Give me just a moment. And presentation mode. Let's go back. Oops.
You are doing really well, Vivian.
I'm just going to make sure I'm going forward or backwards, so I'm not sure. Is this the first slide, Monika?
No, it's not, Vivi. It's about the third one. You will reveal my secret.
I'm letting all your secrets out, so there. Is this the first slide?
No.
No.
This is the second one. This one. This is the first one.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the floor is mine.
Yes, the floor is yours, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, so hello everyone, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for letting me this opportunity to present my research 1 week before its defense. I'm super nervous because the room full of experts. My thesis employs 3 research methodologies. However, I will focus on Q methodology as it became prominent methodology of my thesis, and I will only briefly mention the other 2, which also informed my especially concourse of this study. When I began my PhD, I began my PhD in 2018/2019, and I was initially, as Rola said, unaware of Q methodology. That's why I began with 2 others. Vivi, if I can ask you for the next slide. Oh, okay, thank you. So in the next approximately 40 minutes, I will provide you with the context of the study and conceptualize reflection, which is the topic of my research, and explain why I chose to focus on reflection in education and why it was important to include both professions, so nursing and social work, in my study. And then I will briefly mention the first 2 studies and other activities that informed my third study employing Q methodology. And following that, I will explain how I designed my study using Q methodology, what the factor analysis revealed, and how I interpreted the resulting factors. And finally, I will synthesize the findings from all 3 studies and present a conclusion, offering a comprehensive, hopefully, overview of my research and its implications of the field of education. So next study, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I proceed with my presentation, let me just briefly situate my research. It takes place in the Czech Republic, which is a small landlocked country in Central Europe. The Czech Republic underwent a significant transformation with the Velvet Revolution in 1989, which was a peaceful movement that marked the end of 40 years of socialism/communism under Soviet/Russian influence. I mention this part of the history because it plays a role in my study of reflection. And Vivi, if I can ask you for the next slide. And yes, so it will be a little bit complicated because I have this animation which I didn't count for. So if you can click all the views just to, yeah, thank you. So first, nursing. So I began my professional journey in 1995 when I was studying at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops in British Columbia in Canada. And the study was interesting because it had an innovative curriculum that was focusing on community nursing, and the program was influenced by phenomenology, feminism, critical social theory, and it promoted reflective thinking and critical thinking. So I thought it was important because it shaped me not only personally, but especially professionally. And this experience allowed me to understand perhaps the importance of reflection better. This experience is also interesting because in what occurred in 1990s when reflection was massively introduced into educational curricula in English-speaking countries. And it was often, certainly not always, but often without specifying what reflective practice means. And later on, the literature from early 21st century criticizes this overuse without specifying what it's meant by it, because it produced ambiguity about the term. So now I will fast forward. In about 15 years later, I happened to be back to Czech Republic, and it was at the beginning of 2000, something like 2005, something like that. And it was very different from Canada. Nursing was in Canada, the nursing, we had many more competencies and enjoy a different social status. In Czech, it was just a different story. So I decided to further my study and enrolled to the master's degree, which you see on the picture as well. And I studied the management of health and social organizations. And it was a fruitful environment because it was the platform for healthcare professionals as well for social work professionals. So we could learn from each other. And in 2018, I was invited to the newly designed PhD program, which encouraged my research project exploring reflection in both in nursing and social work. And so because I was exposed to both nursing and social work, it led me to understand more deeply the fundamental importance for both professions, for that these professions have an importance for society and for its citizens. Yet, despite of that, the current legislative framework in the Czech Republic rather separates these two professionals, which promotes the creation of the walls instead of building the bridges. And I believe in light of the changing world, we need the bridges and not the walls. So my research wants to contribute to the interprofessional dialogue along with the reflection. Vivi, if I can ask you for the next slide, and maybe you can again, click on everything. It's 3 times if you can, thank you. And one more, please.
Oh, one more.
And 2 more actually, and 1 more.
Okay.
So in today's world, everything is connected, right? We are facing big changes from how diverse our communities are to political tensions and even how fast technology is moving, especially with artificial intelligence. And these changes are making health and social care more expensive and more complex. And to handle this complexity and increasing costs, there is a push for being more efficient and effective and cutting the costs. But this approach can miss the unique needs of individuals and attention to specific situations. And experts suggest that reflective practice could be the key to solving these challenges by working closely with clients to find personalized solutions rather than relying on one-size-fits-all answers. However, there is a caution that this reflective approach needs to be genuine to avoid becoming just another box-ticking exercise. And my thesis explores how we can encourage this kind of deep critical reflection in the education of social workers and nurses to better prepare these new professionals for their future practice and to enjoy their professions better. So Vivi, next slide, please. And again, please just click, click, because it's again the animation. Okay, I think this could be all. So that was when I was talking about reflection and the overusage and so on, and emptying the term, I was talking about the English-speaking literature. And now let's look at the Czech context. So in the Czech Republic, and the current situation can be depicted by the old quote of Smith from 1992. Everybody has his or her own, usually undisclosed, interpretation of what reflection means. And according to the research, many professionals have only a superficial understanding of what reflection is and how such a practice is supposed to be carried out. And these researchers also tell us that the current social work education in the Czech Republic is moving more towards the competency approach rather than, and there is the diminishing emphasis on reflexivity. So it's just that reflection may be an important topic to study. Next slide, please, Vivi. Okay, now I don't have any animation, so that's good. So how I regard reflection, just so that it's clear what I mean by it. So for me, it is a deliberate intellectual inspection of our experience, of our thoughts, emotions, feelings, values, beliefs, and assumptions in order to gain a new perspective or a deeper meaning or a learning. And critical reflection, then it is a deeper examination of personal experience, and it is connected to the broader socio-political and also historical context. And it's focusing on deconstruction of power structures. And next slide, please. And if you can click. And one, yeah, super, thank you. So these two approaches guided me in conducting first the semi-structured interviews with nursing and social work educators, then my reflexive thematic analysis. Those were the studies prior to Q. And that I used also these approaches to analyze the interviews, and it led me to my choice of Q methodology as well. So phenomenology is the direct according to the then scope, in direct contrast to positivism by emphasizing subjectivity over objectivity, by emphasizing description over analysis, interpretation over measurement, and independent action over quantification. Whereas critical constructivism, which informed me more and more the longer I was in the studies, it integrates Dewey's pragmatic approach of social constructivism and political discourse. It emphasizes the role of power in shaping our image of society and the world around us, and it leads us to uncover and critically examine forms of domination and hegemony, such as gender or racial inequalities. Next slide, please. And click. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. So this is what informed my concourse. So first of all, it was the literature review, of course. Then it was the quantitative study, where I used two scales, psychometric scales, measuring different facets of reflection. It was a part of a project I was involved in, and it was more like a pilot study, but it informed my concourse as well, so that's why I'm mentioning it. Then it was a project which was called INORP, and it was its name was Innovation Through Reflexivity and Participation, strengthening the education and professionalization of social work and professional interfaces. It was a project that went on for 3 years, and it was with it was international. It was with Ireland, Finland, Portugal, and Belgium, and it really helped me to understand, especially the critical reflection part. Then it was the RTA, standing for Reflexive Thematic Analysis, of 12 interviews with educators, of nurses and social workers. And I used a lot of their responses in my concourse. And teaching the communication skills, as Raula pointed out, also helped me to apply the theoretical knowledge as I was learning to my students, to practical application of reflection. So next slide, please. Okay, so exploring subjective perspectives with Q. So these were the 3 guiding questions. Well, it was the second question is of course not a key question, but it was requested by my supervisors. But I will not attend to it today. It was the least interesting question for me. But I put it to, you know, it was a part of the Q study. The next slide, please, Vivi. No animation, that's good. So these are the overviews that I also use in my thesis, and I saw many new researchers using. It is on the left side. It's according to Zabala from 2018, and on the right side, there are illustration of the individual steps according to Susan Ramlow. And the sketches represent the research process of Q methodology, which begins with a concourse, an unfiltered collection of items on the topic, and continues with the Q set, a set of items for evaluation, a P set or Q sample, P set communication partners, and Q sorting, ordering of items by communication partners. And it is followed by data analysis and interpretation. Next slide, please. So that is how my concourse looked. So it was, of course, the first step, and it was to gather as much information as possible related to the topic under study, which is reflection. This information can be in form of verbal. I'm saying it because I will be presenting the Q study to some people who never heard of it. So if just briefly, I try not to put many Q terminology, but just a short mention, please. So yeah, written statements, pictures, videos, audio recordings, etc. And the aim is to get a wide range of opinions and ideas that exist about the topic in a given context. So as I said, the concourse for this study was primarily shaped by 4 sources: the results of the questionnaire, survey, the semi-structured interviews with social work and nursing educators, then the literature review, and then the INORP project about the participation. And the final stage of this concourse consisted of 150 statements, approximately, about reflection in education. And yes, this is the sample. So the second step in the process involved carefully choosing a diverse mix of statements that reflect a broad range of views on the topic being explored. So reflection. I think of this as creating a mini universe of opinions that capture the essence of the subject, including both positive and negative viewpoints. Of course, it's from Professor Brown. This step is crucial, but can be challenging because it involves narrowing down a large collection of potential statements to a more manageable set that accurately represents the topic. There are various strategies that can be used to accomplish this. And in my case, my approach was using the categories that you can see on the left corner, definition, function, conditions, and so on. These are the categories that emerge from my reflexive thematic analysis from doing the interviews. And then I used the coloring method, and I this is how I diminished the statements to 50. And then the final list, I consulted with an experienced nurse and an experienced social work educator. And by experience, I mean they both use reflection in their techniques. So I asked their expert opinion. And can I have the next slide, please? Okay, and one more click, please. Thank you. So after I extracted those 50 statements, I ran an online pilot study using a free Q-tip software. The pilot study I conducted in summer 2022, and I gathered data online using this free Q-sort software. And I worked with 5 nursing and social work educators whom I had interviewed before. So this helped me to understand more what the data and also what is the analysis about, and the correlations, because I knew their opinions, and so I could connect the dots better. And it also helped me to learn that I need to downsize my Q sample, because so I went from 50 to 35, and also I needed to clarify the content. So I again met with the experts, and yeah, so that was this stage. And Vivi, can I ask you for? So this third step of the study was to choose the participants, aiming for, so the P set, aiming for a theoretically relevant group of nursing and social work educators. So once I designed the online study, I initially asked the educators I knew to participate, as I needed their feedback on the online system, which had some technical issues, especially with moving statements and using different devices such as iPads and iPhones. So once it was solved, then next slide, please. Then I would have this list of all institutions. As you can see, Czech Republic is quite small. So I was able to get all the higher educational institutions who provide education for nurses and social workers. And I would contact first the educational I would contact them, usually the management, by telephone, and I introduced myself and I stated the purpose of my study. And then I offered to send them an email with the link to the study. They were invited to explore the link and the study design, and if they found it not threatening, because people are sometimes afraid engaging in the research, if they find it okay, then they could use the email to distribute the link without investing extra time in rewriting and introduction and introducing the study. And next slide, please, Vivi. Okay, so yes, I forgot to mention that I used the Q method study. You can see it on the interface, and so I learned that the conditions of instructions are crucial. So I used a stimulus that was offered by the methodology, and I, apart from the instructions, I let them know that where I'm coming from, that I think, or we made view reflection is a term that is frequently used in education, but it's rarely defined. And as the old saying goes, what is known is often not fully understood. So what is your perspective on reflection in education? And to what extent do you agree with the opinions or statements of your colleagues? And with which statements do you most or least identify with? I also instructed them to first start with the pile. I made a mistake. I instructed them first least to go to least agree with. Then I read the more correct way, and then place the statements that you find the least important in the boxes under -4 and nearby, and etc. The ones more important in your regarding your reflection in teaching. It's also important, not reflection in general, but reflection in their education, that they should be put under +4, under +3, and so on. You know the way it goes. So Vivek, can you please go to another slide? Yeah, so this is how the interface looked at the end of the research. You can see that I had 35 who completed the study. Interestingly, 85 not started, so they clicked on it. I'm sure that some of them were the managers, but I am not sure, unfortunately. And the 13 were in progress, never finished. But I got 35, and I was very happy with that. Vivi, next one. So again, you all know it, but about analysis and interpretation. So unlike, I like the traditional factor analysis that quantifies beliefs across a population. Q methodologies, factor analysis look for patterns in how groups of people understand a topic. It's about the diversity of perspectives, not the quantity. That's why 35 was more than enough. Operant subjectivity is the key here. It's about how people naturally view different issues. The factor analysis then helps us see the common threads in these views, like threats, not threatening, but the threats. When interpreting, we start by identifying which statements people most agree or disagree with, revealing the essence of each perspective. And understanding Q methodology results can be complex. It's about people grouping their thoughts in a way that reflects their views. Yeah. I think that we can, the Zoom Q community, oh yeah, the Zoom Q community support was an invaluable resource. I could never do the interpretation and also the factor analysis without it. Thank you in this opportunity. Yeah, the whole Zoom community, and also the special, like Professor Montgomery and Professor Brown. And I found Elizabeth Albright et al., the students, the lesson learned, some guidelines to factor interpretation. I found it really extremely helpful during my interpretation and analysis as well. And you will see the bits and pieces from it in the next slide. Vivi, can we? Okay, so not this one, next, some other slides. Okay, so you can see, this is just a basic overview. So you can see that I had a key sample of 35 statements and that my p-set was 35 people. And they were 13 registered nurses, I mean, from nursing profession, and 22 from social work profession. I got 3 factors, which I will go to it a little bit more in the next, the matrix, factor matrix. And these were my characteristics. So you can see that the first factor is the strongest one, and it has quite higher correlation with this factor 2. And then the third factor, which I was really hesitating, and I used the consultation, and I was happy to keep it, but because it was different. So can we go on, and I will tell you more about it. Can we go to the, okay, super. So this is, I broke it up. This is just one matrix. So you can see the factor 1 is on that one table, and then factor 2 and 3 are on the second break, just for the space. And yeah, so factor A is associated, it has 20 defining variables. And factor B is moderately strong. It has 8 defining variables for nurses, for social workers. And yeah, so factor 1 is the most robust, as I say, and the most reliable factor, followed by factor 2, and factor 3 is the less reliable, but the very interesting one. So we can go further, please. Okay, so once again, the question was, how do educators that guided my case study, how do educators in nursing and social work currently view reflection? And I called it a questionnaire, but it's a mistake. I forgot to correct it. It was the second part of the online study design, where you could ask, it was the last part where you could ask the demographics, and there was a sliding scale to assess the individual's level of understanding of the statements. And I could include any questions I wanted, and I included what helped you in deciding where to place the statements. In the pyramid, what were you missing in the statements, and what caught your attention, threw you off or surprised you? So that was part of the online study. Can we go further? Okay, so this is, so factor A, as mentioned, it was defined by 20 Q sorts, and you have all the information, like 19 social workers, 5 nurses, and the educators defining this factor share a holistic philosophical view on reflection. And they're focusing on its transformative power that encompasses both personal and professional dimensions. Although they seem to value the workshops, like the know-how and various techniques, they do not indicate a strong need to attend or gain further know-how. And the themes that were the most important that came from the analysis were autonomy, transformation, deeper reach, and safe environment. And if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, and it's okay, sorry, and it's the unexamined life. It reminded me the phenomenological view of the quote of Socrates, and an unexamined life is not worth living, because they were like guided by the questions. So you can see this is the motif I used from the study I mentioned from Elizabeth Albright et al. That was their recommendation, and it helped me a lot. I drew on the large paper, I drew these graphs on it, and I had it on the floor, and I was just looking at it and adding some extra information. So I can just say that the essence of this factor, as defined by the Q sorts, the Q sorters that correlate most strongly with the factor, is well illustrated by the Socrates quote, and it emphasizes the importance of asking questions with the aim of reaching awareness and understanding of what is happening within us. This also helps us, I'm using the statement, so it was saying it also helps us better understand others and the world in which we live. Educators who sorts characterize this factor perceive reflection as a means to become aware of what is happening in their inner world. And they show that through understanding of our thoughts, our feelings, and that we can better influence our behavior and also interactions with the outside world. The phenomenological view of reflection is captured in those 4 themes that I already mentioned. Now, I don't have time to go into the details, but let's proceed. Proceed to the next slide, please. Okay, so now we are getting to the second factor, which I then during the interpretation began to call the pragmatic view on reflection. And the quote best depicts the essence of this factor. I find that, or this view, sorry, is that we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. And I call the view pragmatic. And so it's the pragmatist John Dewey quote. Again, it was characterized by 8 sorters. Yeah, and on the sliding scale, it was, I forgot to mention before, but the sliding scale, it was the last part of the online study. And the participants could slide, to which level of understanding of the statements they want from 0 to 100. So it was, as with the first view, it was a little bit over 90%. So over 90% of the statements, they knew what they mean and they understood. And the focus was on teaching, so not on questioning and looking inside, and also how the behavior influences others, but which was with the first view. But this one was more focusing on education, on teaching, on learning. Yeah, so these educators view reflection as tangible, productive process promoting professional growth and effective teaching. They appreciate the benefits reflection offers and see the advantage in having multiple techniques in support reflection and make the classes more attractive. Those were the statements 20 and 34. They perceive workshops as an opportunity to develop the skill further while having the chance of an immediate practical application from statement 21. They're also open to enriching the techniques by introducing elements of reflections even more purposefully as they see it as an opportunity for growth for both teachers and students. And they're open in in-class observations or video analysis of their teachings, as they see it as an opportunity for both group and individual reflection, and a great way to support educators and improve their teaching. And can we go please to the next slide? Thank you. So this is the same, just using this tool that I found really helpful, and you can see perhaps better the statements that I was using as a quotation marks. This is of course like +4, +3, and then minus and -3. I for sure worked with all the statements, even with the statements that were in the middle. It just like, it was such a long interpretation. I had to downsize it. So I'm using just the most stand up information, or stand out, or whatever however you call it. So Vivi, can I ask you for the next slide? Okay, so this is now the third view. Factor C, I called an inspired view on reflection. And the quote that nicely for me depict the essence was from an educator and an author about reflection, Jones. And he writes that reflection is like opening a cover to the book of your own life, which up to now has been carefully closed. And I think that this really depicts the essence of this third view, which is only inspired by two registered nurses, so nursing educators. They revealed that their understanding of the reflection was only 65%. And also, I believe that what really depicts nicely the essence, another quote is, "I may not know how, but I want to learn." This is what I got out of when looking at the statements. This is what came to my mind to interpret it, or to describe it. And they also identified that there's a need for professional development, and there was an adaptive effect of key sorting. So in the post interview, which was part of the online study that I mentioned, the questionnaire that I called wrongly, this educator wrote, "I have realized how important reflection is and how little it is worked with. Even I work with it very little." And and the second one also mentioned something in a way that during this sorting, they actually became interested in reflection. And I think that was really, I was very happy. And Vivi, can I ask you for the second, for the next? Yeah, this is again the same. So, you know, in Q methodology, we are aiming to include the diverse viewpoints, even those less common or not usually highlighted in other types of research. And as Professor Montgomery explains, that typically it is the first factor that represents the widely shared opinion. The second factor includes those who usually disagree or have the opposite view. And there is often a third factor that offers a unique and creative insight. And although, and this factor is very often very hard to interpret. Well, this was definitely in this case, in my case. However, I consider it as a valuable factor that brought insights into my study. And also it was although it was represented by only 2 participants from the field of nursing, I had a similar need or view that was expressed by the communication partners from social work during my semi-structured interviews. So it does not mean that it is just a view shared by nurses. In fact, it could be that this view represented many more educators, but they were not part of the study because either the topic is not interesting for them or it was too hard to sort the statements. And so they didn't proceed to the end, as we found 13 were in progress and never finished. So an interesting view. And yeah, an inspired view, I call. Can I ask for the next slide? Mm-hmm. So, and interestingly, they were views that were shared by all by many of the sorters, and those were that reflection is the integration of theory, practice, and research. There was a statement stating that, and a lot of people agreed across the whole, all 3 views, using reflection to prioritize and manage uncertainty, that it is good for you for that it is a skill that can be learned. It is a skill that needs to be cultivated. It is not a natural way of thinking, and it is not a trend that would disappear. However, it would also became clear that it is a limited focus on critical reflection across both professions. And so the study revealed, okay, and that was, in social work and nursing. And it was in contrast with the countries I mentioned that were collaborating with us in that project, because they were from the Western Europe, and the critical reflection was a big part of all our discussions, yet it was underexplored in the Czech Republic, except within the social work academic community, but not in teaching, not in practice. And in nursing, the integration of critical reflection remains minimal. And according to Professor Lawrence, who is my supervisor and who has a long history of cooperation with our country, yet he's originally from Germany, but he lives now in Italy, but most of his life he spent in Great Britain. So he thinks that it is because of that this reflects historical efforts to suppress reflective practices during the socialist or communist era. And because it was aiming to control citizens, and unlike in Western Europe or United States, etc., where such practices encouraged active participation and critical thinking, it was not so in Czech. And yet critical reflection is essential for professionals to evaluate their decisions and the socio-political forces that are impacting their work. And it's crucial for addressing the systemic issues and promoting social justice. And while Western Europe has long recognized its importance in professional development, the Czech Republic needs to further develop and integrate critical reflection into education and professional practice. It's one of my outcome of my research. And we are heading towards the last, yes?
Yeah, I just want to say we are quite close to the end. And
Okay.
I know some people want to leave. I really would like people to also ask you a few questions. So we'll have a bit of a close, but if that's okay.
Thank you. I have, but if you can, this is the last slide, and this is just a quick conclusions. And this is my last slide anyway. So, yeah, so in conclusion, I'm mentioning that, and this is also the outcomes from the other two researchers that I mentioned only briefly, that reflection is a multifaceted concept. It has these personal, interpersonal, and broader socio-structural levels. The complexity of reflection makes it hard to define uniformly. It's like Rola, you spoke about the rhythm. I also mention it in my work. Methods like reflecting, writing, critical friendship, reflective models, enhance reflective practice. A big outcome is educators need support and need to be taught how to reflect in order to teach their students reflection. And the importance is that the reflection should be intentional in developing student competencies. And the last one, reflective practice and interpersonal collaboration are key to meeting contemporary challenges that I mentioned at the beginning, and in strengthening professional identity and cooperation. And this is just the last quote, if I may. It's I love it. It's from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And the last slide is just thank you. And thank you very much.
Wow, that was so interesting. Well done, Monika. And yes, I'm so glad you got to the last to that last quote, because I think it beautifully sums up your study and the space it has created. So can we see if there are any questions? Maybe people who want to speak. There's a few comments, but maybe somebody wants to speak to Monika and ask something.
Did you?
Hi, Monika. Firstly, great presentation. I really enjoyed learning about your topic. So my question just pertains to, I understand that you had different types of methodologies within your study. So you talked about the interviews where you created a scale, Q methodology, of course, and then just the qualitative interviews. Did you find it challenging in your thesis to sort of demarcate that this is R methodology, my interviews, and Q methodology, and that's very different? Because I'm finding that challenging, or in writing the chapter of my methodology chapter, to say these are two different things. And how was that experience for you?
Thank you for the question. I absolutely found it really, truly challenging. And the way I solved it at last, I devoted first chapter to the context. And I really took time to, to introduce where I'm coming from and what I want to achieve. And then the second chapter, and I made it clear, I devoted to introducing those two methodologies. So I quickly, not in depth, but I did the fairly just understandable, I mean, not in depth, but overview of my first study, of my second study, of the findings. And then I went on the third chapter, which I devoted to Q methodology, fourth as well. Fifth, I did the synthesis. So again, I went to the second chapter and synthesized it with the third. And fortunately, one led to another. So I found that in the Q methodology, it was not out of the blue, in a hall, but it was just a natural way of like evolving the topic of reflection, if that helps. I can tell you, even like I can show you how I managed if you want after, like in the app.
Thank you. You answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika. That was so interesting. I'm just going to say it might be, can we, before we go on for a soft close where some people might want to leave, just give Monika really a round of applause for such an interesting, or, we give heart emojis. I must now just try and find it. So well done, Monika. And there's hands that are clapping and hearts and all of that. And then those people who would like to leave, there are a few questions that we can read. But maybe let's first take if there's another verbal question that is spoken, or maybe a comment on the 3 different factors that Monika identified. Anybody? I'm trying to look for the hands.
I just have a quick one. Monika, about your 3rd factor, I found it interesting that, and I like how you didn't throw the data away, that you recognize that even though there may be a perspective that's positive versus one that's opposed to, you found a factor that didn't identify with any of them. So what do you think that's telling you about this concept of reflection? How do you interpret that?
I interpret it, and it goes along with my research, that those people who answered who sorted the sort were the people who are interested in in reflection. Because you know how it is painful if you have to sort like 35 or 40 statements about a topic that you are not interested in and you are not you don't know much. So I think that only those little people, responded, and those 2 were maybe 2 of many. According to the research, it is so. And what was also interesting, that those 3 views, I actually, it came to me only during the interpretation, were exactly the same views that I got during my semi-structured interviews, which was really like interviews like an hour and a half long. And I knew the people. Those were educators. I knew if they are using reflective teaching methods during their teachings, and if they're not. And I had many of them I chose because they did, and 2 of them I chose they didn't. And I could see how it corresponded, how you say that, with that online research and with those 3 views. So those who didn't use the methods, they had exactly the like ambivalent, not understanding the statements. Yes, I'm interested in, I want to learn, but actually it was because of my interview, they kept inspired even during my real interviews in person. So I don't know if I interviewed you well. If I answered you well.
You did.
Like, and I didn't want to keep the factor at the beginning, but it was Diane, and I have in my thesis, I have it all explained, and also, the quotes from Diane, what she said, and Miku, and mindfulness, etc. But I just didn't have time to include it all.
Thank you. You did. It sounds like you gave them a voice, which they would not have otherwise been heard. So no, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a better way to say.
So Monika, I think I just want to say that from the comments, there are people who say that it's a wonderful presentation. Thank you for such an important topic, and people would want to read it, of course. Well done. You will do great on your defense. So that's really great. I just want to say that at one or other stage, you spoke of how interpretation is both crucial and complex, and how that links to the abduction element of Q. So I really think your study is so interesting. We can't wait to read more about it and all the articles you're going to publish about it. And I'm sure from all of us, we can just wish you the best of luck. Is it 1 week today? When is your Viva?
It is next Tuesday,
Next
on the
Tuesday.
27th.
So any advice for Monika for her Viva from anybody?
I
I
probably
think
won't be presenting too much on Q. They will, they want me to to do it.
Focus on the
just a little
research
bit.
and the findings and the other aspects. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we know
yeah.
that this is the most interesting part.
Although, if I may, I got 2 opponent views, and both are just excellent. And I sparkled the interest in both educators. They didn't know about Q, and they both said that they're interested in learning more. And I really devote a lot of, like, the whole chapter to the history of Q and the implication. I mean, the possible use in nursing and social work, and I really devoted a lot of time and space in chapter 3. So I hope some people will get inspired. And for this purpose, I wrote it in Czech so that Czech educators need it, and
that's wonderful.
may be interesting.
Yeah,
Interested.
so that's amazing.
It would be
And you
nice.
speak in English. Is your defense in Czech or in English?
It will be in Czech. It was supposed to be in English, but it will be in Czech because one of the professor who will attend the defense doesn't speak English.
Wow.
So so it was just a few days ago they told me it's going to be in Czech. So
Thank you
my
very
Professor
much.
Lawrence, who doesn't speak Czech, he will use an app to translate.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The multilingual qualities and it's very interesting, both multilingual as well as the different disciplines, and the fact that Q methodology can actually cross so many boundaries. And yes, you are not making a wall, you are building bridges. So thank you very much.
Thank
So
you, guys.
with,
Thank you.
with that, we'll do a last round of applause, and then thank you for everybody attending. And Monika, most
Thank you.
importantly, thank you for you presenting to us your wonderful research.
Thank you for having the chance to present.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Great
Bye-bye.
job, Monika.
Outstanding.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you very
Yes,
much. Oh
yes.
my God. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
No, I
Monika,
feel like I only said the 5th that I wanted, Yeah, hello,
please stay
Diane.
1 minute so that we can just,
Okay.
I just want to stop the recording. We will stop the
With
recording
pleasure.
now.